bliss is something that we're all seeking. And when we think about it, we think about external factors. But on today's show, we're going to be talking about how we can understand bliss and find it within. Hi, this is Joey Buzzertville and welcome to the Secret Men's Business Podcast. On today's show, we're going to be speaking to Braedy Mac, and he's going to be talking to us about bliss and how we can go seeking it. Braedy, how are you?
I'm doing really well. Good to
Did I say your name right? Did I say your name right?
Got it. Yeah.
Cool, because I spelt it wrong before. So look at you. You're traveling around. You're like the external traveler. And where are you at the moment?
Currently in Jakarta, about to catch a flight over to Bali, so Indonesia.
Do you love Bali, do you? Is that like a good place for you? Yeah,
Bali's where a lot has opened up for me, for sure. I met my guru there, my teacher, and it's just got epic surf and such great community. I really love the Eastern lifestyle coming from, a real Western upbringing. It's nice to have this complete change in the way that we live our lives, and sometimes it's like mind-blowing, and then other times you just kind of get out of your own way and you can just sink into, oh wait, it's just different here. And that's okay.
And the exciting thing, I guess, what I'm jealous about is that you're going to be there without the all the tourists.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so snuck back in just as they're opening up borders,
isn't it? Like, because it's going to be quite a different experience having lots of people there.
Well, I was there right before the closures happened, and lots of my friends stayed, and I decided I'm going to leave and I'm going to go back to Canada. And the whole 2 years, I was just kind of really rattled that I didn't actually stay.
So they were there. They've been there the whole time.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, it would be nice to actually. It's a better place than staying like I'm in Melbourne, and I think Bali would seem a little bit more freer than being locked up in your house, wouldn't it?
Yeah, there's quite a bit of freedom in Bali, for sure.
Yeah. So today's topic is understanding bliss. So before we start, and I know we've got a bit of an insight about you now, but do you want to just give a bit of a background of what you do so people can get an idea?
Sure. So I'm a trauma-informed clinical breath worker. And so I work with the breath, but really what that means is I'm a nervous system specialist. And so when I work with the breath, I'm really working with the nervous system. And the nervous system controls every other function of your brain and your body. And so when you change the way that you breathe, you're actually changing the way that you think, and you're changing the way that you feel, and you change the way that you behave in life. And what's really interesting in my line of work is I get to work with people's subconscious, because I get to notice how they're breathing when they're not thinking about breathing. So if I ask you or the listeners right now to just take a breath slowly in through the nose, deep down into the belly, you can actually do that. And it's going to change the way that you think, and change the way that you feel, and change the way that you actually behave in this moment.
So, sorry, go on.
And I'll just add on one little bit. What's not fair of me to ask is for you to change the way that you're breathing, 20,000 times per day. That's how many breaths you take, Joe. And in that, what we actually do as a clinical breath worker working with the nervous system is I can rapidly repattern your breath so that 20,000 times per day, you're reinforcing this new pattern of thinking, of feeling, and of behavior.
Yeah.
And so we actually take people through this whole system of neuroplasticity.
Yeah. So breathwork is really popular at the moment. Is there a sort of correlation, or did you, connect with, say, Wim Hof?
So Wim Hof is not a teacher of mine. I'm totally familiar with his teachings, and I love what he's doing for breath and the awareness around breath and its effects on your physiology, psychology, your immune system, so on and so forth. And it's brilliant, the work that he's doing. I don't teach that specific method. I have a much more trauma-informed approach. And so, there's one piece to breathwork that's really popular right now, and it's getting people to have these really big experiences. And that can be really, really powerful, or it can be really traumatizing.
For sure.
So when we're repatterning our breath to breathe really deep, really heavily, so full big in breaths and full big out breaths, like we do in Wim Hof style of hyperventilation, we're actually simulating a breath pattern that people have experienced in their most traumatic experiences in life.
Right.
Now, if that gets reactivated within the body doesn't actually know whether it's reliving that trauma or not. And so if you just hype people up with this big, powerful breath without the integration and deep rest, well, you actually have the potential of re-traumatizing someone.
And do you actually talk to them as well? Because I'm a therapist, so I'm listening to you and I'm going, I think all of these things need to work in a team effort. Like it's like saying to someone, "Oh, take this tablet," but you don't need to talk to a therapist. Or do you feel that the breath work and then maybe holistic work is something that people should be connecting, or do you feel that what you offer is all they need to do?
There's both. So thank you for that. So there's what you're speaking to is the top-down approach, which is, oftentimes in things like talk therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy is using the mind conversation to try to change our behavior. And that's about, I'd say, 20% of the equation, but it's missing the other 80%, which is our somatic experience. And that's from the bottom up. So we think about the body changing the mind, or in the case of the breath, what we're doing is we're actually getting out of the way of the mind.
Yes.
And so we are sensory beings, Joe. We are constantly taking in information and understanding our environment and our surroundings through what we're feeling, more so than what we're thinking.
Yeah.
And so 80% of our nerves in our body are actually going upwards from our body into our brain. And only about 20% are motor nerves going from our brain back down to our body. So cognitive behavioral therapy has kind of been the standard approach in most therapies for the past 50 years or so. And it's helpful, but it's missing a larger piece of the picture. And that's the awareness that we have bodies, and that we can use both. And so for me, my approach is both. We do a little check-in at the beginning of our treatments. We'll take people through this incredible experience where they drop into a really deep state of meditation, a theta state where they become really malleable, really plastic. We repattern their behavior, which thus has correlation to the way that they think, feel, and behave.
Yeah. So I do hypnotherapy as well. So it's interesting because I became a therapist because of trauma myself. And I agree with you. Like, I didn't get the full benefit of doing the talk therapy. Like, I didn't feel that I was fully healed. And so I went seeking all these other things. And I agree. It's like, I think there needs to be a combination of things. I wanted to mention, I've got this app that I interviewed a guy who does some breathing stuff. It's called Breathing AI. And it basically watches me on the computer, and the screen changes color to match my breathing. It was annoying at first, but it's actually quite interesting. And I realized that I don't breathe heavy enough. Then I know I need to go away and actually do some heavy breathing. Because I think that as humans, we're not breathing deep enough, are we? We're sort of rushing more and with more shallow breathing. Would that be true?
So it depends, right? And I'd be curious to hear like why you think that you're not breathing enough, because there's a difference in over breathing is a real epidemic at the moment as well. And over breathing is a dysfunctional breath pattern, right? It's there's no right way to breathe, but really there's hundreds of different ways to breathe, because life is also dynamic. So depending on what you're doing is going to determine how you want to be breathing.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm fighting for my life, if I'm wrestling bear or something, which us Canadians do quite often, I really want to be breathing heavily, probably in through my mouth. I want to be using my upper respiratory system, so upper lungs. I want to be doing that chest breathing that feels like adrenaline, and it's actually going to stimulate my adrenals, and it's going to make me feel really active. Now, most of life, I'm not wrestling bears. Most of life, I'm kind of hanging out. I'm in conversation. I'm in a social situation. In that case, I don't want adrenaline pumping through my veins. I don't want to feel activated. I actually really want to feel calm and relax. And so in that case, what might be a more appropriate breath pattern would be learning how to breathe much deeper. And when I say deeper, I literally mean deeper. So what we can do is we can press the bottom diaphragm, which is just below the rib cage, down through the pelvic floor. I'm starting to now massage and stimulate the adrenals, the kidney, the gallbladder, the spleen, the liver, starting to massage digestion. So this could really help with anyone who has digestive issues. And I'm even pressing the breath deeper than that, all the way down to the perineum, which,
Yes.
for men sits in between the anus and the testes. And my breath can actually breathe all the way down there.
Yeah. Thank you so much. You're the very first person that's explained that part, the beginning part, that makes sense, because I always thought that deep breathing was right, but really, it's just about going deeper, isn't it?
And that's
that's why I was confused, because I thought that I wasn't breathing enough, right? And so, yeah, and you get confused because so many people have different opinions, but that really helped me explain. Yeah, thanks. So let's go to the topic. So can you try and give us a definition of what you think bliss is? Like, how do we know if we found it?
Yeah, and again, getting out of our heads and into our bodies, we don't know we find bliss. And I would almost imagine that most of the time when you think it kind of slips through the cracks, but rather we feel it. Right? It's this felt sense of this experience that's really ineffable. I can try to put it into words for you, but it's really felt.
Yeah.
And
so you are explaining it in a way that people don't necessarily go to easily. I think people think that they have to think it.
Yeah, right. Like people think that they have to think their way out of overthinking, right?
Yeah. Or do you think that people think it's materialistic, like it's something rather than it really isn't? It doesn't matter what it is. It's us, isn't it? It's the feeling.
Listen, Joe, bliss is available to everyone in this moment.
Yeah.
Literally right now, if you really tune into how beautiful this moment is. No, yes. Really.
No, I'm laughing because I think I'm always in it, and a lot of people think I'm crazy.
That's right. I mean?
Like they say, "Oh God, you're too happy." Like I had a friend through COVID who said, "I can't be your friend anymore. You're too happy." But I really thought that was a bad thing. But like again, it's not complicated. It just everyone can find bliss in any moment. So you must be you do that by traveling. And how do you find it for you? Do you just look at every moment and just love it?
No, definitely not. No, I wish I was that enlightened, but no. So for me, my experience is coming back to the present moment, is self-regulating, and more often than not, it's through the breath. The breath is an incredible tool for that, and it's a barometer to watch and to notice when I'm not present, right? And so when my breathing pattern, my internal state does not match my external environment, the situation that's happening around me, I know that I'm not present. I'm probably stuck in a past thought or future anxiety, right? Yes. And so as we continue to get clear from all of those things that hold us back from moving into the present moment, or the things that scare us about the future that stop us from being present, we can actually tune into this real safety in what this moment is. And most of the time, when you really look at your life and you feel into the body, you are safe, right? And so when we can tap into like how beautiful it is, what we've won, we're safe, we're here, we're living, we're breathing, we're talking. This moment is so magical if we really give ourselves the opportunity to just let go of all of this past or future stuff. Now, I say that like it's a cognitive process, like, oh, just let go of it. And that's not my experience. I find that more often than not.
I was going to actually say, how did you learn it?
Yeah, so I grew up in like a dysfunctional family. I did not feel safe in my body. I had a lot of, issues growing up as a kid, getting into trouble with the law, and drinking, drugs, and it wasn't until I started traveling, I left home, and I found this experience in a yoga practice, actually, where all of the sudden I came home to my body. I let go of everything else, and I started laughing and crying, and I didn't know what this was. I felt all the emotions all in this single moment, and I thought, I don't know what this is, but this is bliss, and I have to share this with the world. I got to bottle this up and try to describe this and share. And so I looked for all of these different practices. I traveled the world. I became a yoga teacher. I taught all over the world, and really what it all boiled down to for me was the nervous system controls all of these other functions of the brain and the body. And what's most intimately connected to the nervous system is our breath.
Yeah.
And no matter what, in any situation that's happening outside of me that I can't control, I can control one thing, and that's my state, right? A lot of people get caught up in the story of things or the strategy of things, and being able to come home to the first piece is like, okay, what's my state?
Yeah. I mean, you just got this, you've got this great energy, and if you didn't tell me that you went through trauma, I wouldn't have picked it up, because your energy is so bright, right? So I'm sorry you went through that, but I love the fact that out of traumatic experiences, because I went through similar stuff, that you can find yourself, right? And because some people will have trauma and stay in the story, like you said, but you know, for you, who do you think? Who are some of your role models, or some of the people that you look up to, that influenced you? Like you mentioned before about being to Bali and finding was a guru, you said? Or teacher?
Yeah.
Who has been the main person that's really helped you? And it could be you. Like, where did you find that guidance?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, like I looked around the world for it, and really it felt like, you know, he found me. You know, Ed is he's a yogi, and he is really grounded in Western neuroscience, and I really love that.
This was the right sync, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like from the first time I met him, you know, we caught eyes, and he just gave me a big hug, and I just felt like I didn't know what it was, but there's something there. It was like we had known each other for years and years, and I just kind of continue to follow the breadcrumbs. You know, Joseph Campbell says, "Follow your bliss," and it's just like if you continue to just follow these things that just feel really good and feel really aligned. Maybe not so good, because you know, chocolate and ice cream feels really good, but feels aligned.
Yeah, like it sounds like you were very authentic to the journey. It wasn't like. Following the breadcrumbs means that you don't know where the next crumb is going to come from.
Well, that's it. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, do you mind if I ask how old you are?
Yeah, I'm 27.
Yeah, so you see, I'm so impressed. Like, you know, how do you interpret? And this is not a judgment thing, but how do you interpret when you see other men your age or maybe a bit older? What's the problem with that? What's going on with the world with some of these men that are sort of disconnecting from bliss?
Yeah, and for me, you know, we're so wrapped up in the self, right? There's so much, and this was a real big turning point for myself. Was first clearing all the things, regulating my nervous system, being able to be present. From there, getting out of my own way of obsessing over myself, of like I, me, my business, my podcast, all these, and it's just like, there's so much self-help or self-work out there, or, you know, it's wild. But when I really tapped into noticing that I can be of service, and the more that I'm of service, all of these people around me start to elevate. And what happens when all the people around you elevate, Joe?
Well, yeah, you elevate with them.
You elevate with them. Yeah.
See, this is the thing with podcasters, because this is exactly, you're literally saying what I say to people, is that the service thing is, I don't know, do you know about the age of Aquarius? And we're in the age of service, right?
Totally.
And being in this environment, like, I feel so blessed to meet you, and I'm sure you, by your podcast, you feel the same. If we wouldn't have met each other if it wasn't for this, you know, this service, this opportunity. And I love that. So we're doing it through a podcast, but if people just notice, that's available everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah.
Everywhere.
And literally everywhere, like from your grocery store to your colleagues. By the way, especially the ones that you don't like. There's typically people who are like, oh yeah, I've got like a group of friends that, or a group of colleagues that I do like, and then there's a few that no, I just won't even mention them as part of my social structure.
Mm.
You know what? They have a profound impact on you every single day that you come in contact with them, whether you choose to like them or not. So those are actually the people that you need to support the most.
Yeah, totally. So why do you think men just run away from that? Like so when you think about your clients, what are some of the reasons why people want, what are they staying stuck in, you think? Do you think there's a peer pressure, or do you think it's an age thing, or even COVID? Like, because, we are going through a lot of mental health stuff at the moment because of people not having the right tools. So you're, servicing them, I'm servicing them. So what are some of the things that they're saying to you in regards to why they're where they are?
We really like to get stuck in our stories, Joe. We really like to be in this space of the head. And the head is really, really great. Really great. In fact, better than any other technology ever invented at keeping us safe.
Mm.
Right? And when we're in our heads, we are really, safe because we're dissociative from the rest of the body. Now, when we can tune into the heart, feel into the heart, and actually use the heart to command the mind, as opposed to being a slave to the mind, well, our whole life starts to change, right?
I mean, with your family, right? So you went through this dysfunctional family, you left and went traveling. What's the transition now? How do you see them now? How have you been able to change the story?
Yeah, thank you.
Or not listen to the story, I guess.
Yeah, so there was, at one point in my life where I kind of came back and I had all these practices and modalities, and I was like, I'm going to change my family, I'm going to be the hero of my family. Unfortunately, I realized through that journey that I can't actually change anyone. I can only change myself. And that's a really big piece for me, is understanding that, it's not my job to be a parent to my parents.
Yeah.
Or even to my sister. I can be a loving parent to myself, and through actually what's called ACA, it's a global 12-step program. It's adult children of alcoholics and dysfunctional families. I have started to open up. I'm still working these steps, but I've worked out to the point where, I can be a loving parent for myself, and that's enough. And I don't actually need to change anyone else. But as I start to step away and take my hands off the wheel of trying to direct other people, I'm much more able to direct myself. So anyone who has grown up, whether it's an alcoholic family or just a dysfunctional family, highly, highly recommend checking out ACA.
I'll put all the links below. But yeah. I still got to say that I'm so impressed. It's like you're an old soul. Like, how do your family and people around you see you? Like, do they sort of feel threatened, or like your family? Have they been open to you being this way, or do they look at you as like they're scared? Because sometimes people that have to change are uncomfortable with seeing someone that is in a good place.
Sure, yeah, and that can totally be scary, and I think what I pay less attention to is what other people's experiences, and really I can only speak to my experience. I don't know what anyone else's is.
But is the relationship okay? Like, do you talk to each other?
Totally. Yeah, we do.
So that's inspiring. I think it's a really I didn't know that this part was going to come up in the podcast, but I think it's so inspiring to other people listening that are maybe going through similar thing that you've gone through. And, sometimes people may be stuck in the story thinking there's no way out, right? But you are a young, inspiring, you're really happy, person who gives people an ability to say that it's possible. Because, I mean, you said that you were into drugs and it was a dark time. So how long did it take for you to cross over? To go from that dysfunction to not saying, you know what, I feel okay. Was it quick or did it take a while?
It took a long time. Yeah, unfortunately, there's no quick fix for any of this stuff. I think that it's a progression into awareness and into hardening the plasticity that happens when you're a kid. You're still learning. We can really rapidly repattern ourselves, but it takes a specific process. And so anyone who's interested in repatterning themselves using neuroplasticity, I'd recommend to reach out to someone like myself who can actually repattern you from the body, as opposed to like trying to convince you in the mind. It's really this bottom up approach that helps us rapidly repattern. Once we're adults, after the age of about 25, we become much less plastic and much less malleable. But there is a hack. There's a system into it.
Yeah, I'll make sure again. I'll put all the information there. Last question, because I know that you've got to go. Do you feel that this is something that we need to be doing ongoing, or do you feel that there is "I'm better now" feeling? I guess is looking after yourself a lifelong journey.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
I knew you'd say that, but I just wanted to make sure the listeners got it.
Yeah,
because some people say "I'm better now" and they stop. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a constant practice. Every day having my own personal practice, and it's not always perfect. It's not always sunshines and rainbows, and sometimes it doesn't even happen. Yeah. But I think the less that I talk about it, and the more that I just do it, the greater it becomes real for me in my body.
Yeah. I mean, like, I have never met anyone that's so happy. You've just got this radiant smile. I just wanted to say that. It's so pleasant and nice to meet someone that's just got this wonderful energy, because I think, at the moment there seems to be a lot of tension out there. And here you are, this, every question I can feel it through the screen. So thank you so much, Braedy, for coming on the show. I feel very blessed to have had this encounter.
Beautiful. Well, I so appreciate you having me on.
And I'm still jealous that you're going to Bali.
Yeah, of course. Well, feel free to come on out and meet us out here. We'd love to have you. And thank you again for having me on, Joe. And likewise, in terms of shining through with your brightness and happy vibes, I appreciate it deeply.
Yep, keep doing what you're doing. So you've been listening to the Secret Men's Business Podcast. And as I said, all the information about Braedy and all the things that he offers are below in the link. Don't forget to also hit like and subscribe. We have got a back catalogue of nearly 200 podcast episodes that you can listen to with people like Braedy. Maybe not as happy as Braedy, but people like him. So till next time, till the next episode, have a great week, guys, and find your bliss. Bye.